one way of talking about that is as that foundation is developing in our day-to-day life, and it's going to affect us emotionally, it's going to affect our minds, it's going to be awakening intuition. It's not just merely about the body. The body is more like the foundation of physical lives. We awaken our spirituality there and in relationship to our behavior and the structure of our lives, implementing new values. But as we do that, a natural effect will be that our own self-knowledge and awareness will deepen, and we'll start to become aware of parts of our nature, like our emotional life and even the emotional plane of existence, more just naturally. So to some extent, that'll just happen organically. Awareness will just permeate that level, expand deeper into our being. And eventually, it's as if, in a sense, that will become more important. Not that the physical isn't important anymore, but like a way to talk about this, an example of how this works is that, let's say we're working to become a more mature person spiritually. And so we're introduced to practices like following precepts, like the Ten Commandments, or other forms of precepts that suggest things like, let's not steal, let's try to just be content in day-to-day life, be honest, practice right livelihood, don't exploit your workers, or be corrupt, or cheat, and things like that. Be immoral, have integrity, be an ethical person. So a lot of that level, the most accessible level for a lot of humanity, is to kind of follow rules. But as we grow spiritually, our emotional body gets more illuminated, and we get more direct knowledge of like what is actually behind motivating these behaviors. We begin to realize it's really the motivation that matters. We can even break some of the traditional rules if the motivation is wise, if the motivation is loving. So if we tell a little white lie just to save somebody's feelings, that might break the precept of not lying. But if it's truly compassion that motivated us, then it's more important to be compassionate than it is to follow that rule. So as wisdom and compassion and love take over through going deeper into our emotional nature and learning to sort out the motivations that motivate us, then we can let go of the cruder system of how to live a spiritual life that's based more on following rules. We move to this subtler system that's based on understanding spiritual qualities, understanding wisdom, understanding spiritual motivations, and then letting those illuminate our behavior and our decisions. So as we're moving deep into the second initiation cycle, for instance, that's commonly a time when motivation and self-knowledge and, in a sense, a kind of spiritually illumined psychological knowledge comes to the fore more. We had some amount of it during the first initiation cycle, certainly, but it becomes dominant during the second initiation cycle. It's a great deepening of our insight into our motivations, our shadows kind of illuminated, and we tend to just sort of see deeper into human nature and kind of get sobered up about the truth of us silly human beings and all our flaws and all our limitations. And then, again, a big dose of acceptance is necessary during this phase so it doesn't turn into judging ourselves and judging other people. We have to be patient and compassionate. But through a sort of a purging, slow, transformational process of illuminating our astral body, we gain wisdom about all of that, gets illuminated, kind of gets worked out. There's a lot. You can talk about this from a variety of points of view. It can take place in different ways. But it's one way or another. It's a necessary phase to go through. Darshan Singh used to call it the scrubbing process, how our personalities get cleansed and transformed. And even though it is happening before even the first initiation, and it will go on after the second initiation. In fact, the second initiation itself has a turning point, that key moment in the path where we kind of are transformed enough in our astral nature that a new shift will happen. We'll talk about that more next time. Like, what is that moment? What does it actually mean to go through an initiation? How is that different than right before and right after it? Because it is a quantum jump moment. Something shifts fundamentally in our nature. But the thing about the second initiation is it's not the perfecting of our emotional nature. It's getting through the turning point in our relationship to it. We're more soulful then than we are emotional and desire-based. But there's still plenty of emotion and desire around. So when we go through that shift, it causes an expansion in our awareness. So actually things can get even more stirred up after that. There'll be a more accelerated cleansing and transformation of our emotional nature starting after the second initiation shift. So it certainly goes on. By about the third initiation, things have calmed down a lot. There's a profound amount of equanimity at that point, deep quality of inner peace. Doesn't mean emotions are fully completed even then. That's not till the fourth initiation. But they're much more refined, they're much more calmed down. There's a strong state of inner presence where the centeredness in a state of deep peace and equanimity and contentment and compassion is much stronger than the emotional, dynamics that take place. And the types of emotions are generally tend to be a little bit more refined and less powerful at that stage. So there's this period between the first and the third initiation where there's a lot of emotional transformation going on, emotional healing, gaining wisdom that transforms and that shifts our values, that causes us increasingly less inclined to generate emotional reactions, plus all the old elementals and karma need to be healed and worked through and learned from. So that's a very profound period. But at the core of it, what we're gradually learning is to just be at peace in all of that, to be centered, to endure that process, to have equanimity and have a deepening core of a soulful state of presence that's more accepting and at peace and content. And that emerges in the midst of that. It's like a storm going on around us, and it just gets stronger and stronger, stronger until it completely transforms our emotional body. And the tendency to have emotional reactions is largely transcended. So that's a little bit about the second initiation cycle.